Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing well. It's 2020 and this is the year for taking control of our money, taking care of our budget. So today I thought that we should do a video on budgeting. So how many of you guys budget? Do you budget? So what has been your experience so far with budgeting? If you have any comments on that, please leave them down in the description box down below. So today I want us to talk about budgeting, how to budget, and maybe first we should understand what budgeting is. I think the simplest definition of budgeting is that it is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. You know, sometimes you are in the okay, maybe you're an employee, you get your salary, and then suddenly in the middle of the month you're like, okay, what happened to my money? There's no money. Where did I spend it on? So with budgeting helps you to avoid this. It helps you to avoid this random cash flow problems that you are not even supposed to have, and suddenly you have. So budgeting is just generally that you are planning for where you want your money to go instead of wondering where it left. So you don't want to be wondering that, okay, where did I use my money? I can't even remember what I used my money for, but I thought I had money last week, this week I don't have money. So budgeting will help you to not have these questions. So welcome. The first step when you want to budget is to write down all your income sources. If you're an employee or you have a job, you're going to write your salary, net salary after taxes and everything. So the first step is to write all your income sources. If you have a business, you're going to write how much I earn from the business. So I know with businesses sometimes it might be tricky. Some people don't even, okay, but that is a topic for another day. But yes, ideally with the business you should be paying yourself, and so you should know that roughly in every month I should be earning this. So you can just if your income sources are not constant, then you can just write something that an estimate. Maybe you look at the last 3 or 4 months and then you write, okay, these are my income sources, and then you list down, and then you get a total of how much you earn. The second step to writing a budget is writing down all your expenses. Usually I would recommend you group your expenses into two. One, necessary expenses, and then there are other expenses that are not as necessary. So with necessary expenses, let's say with my case, I have I have a baby, so there are expenses associated with that, maybe diapers, maybe milk. So these are things that whether I have money, whether I don't have money, there are things that I just need to pay for. So there is that. Maybe there's transport to the office. There's food for the house we need to eat. So those are necessary expenses. And then there are other expenses. This one will be on the end of shopping. Maybe I want to shop for clothes, also buying clothes. These are other expenses. Now I want to maybe go out, party. These are going to be other expenses. So ideally write down all the expenses that you incur like every month. So and if you don't know your expenses, I would recommend you, there's something called expense tracking. You can decide that every month you're tracking down how much you are spending. Every time you spend money, then you're going to know, okay, this one I bought food, this one was for transport, this was for alcohol. So you do that on every day, and then you'll have a rough estimate of where your money is going. When writing down your expenses, I have a tip for you. I would recommend when figuring out, okay, maybe this is the total amount I want to spend on food, this is the total amount I want to spend on, say, clothing, this is the total amount I want to spend on alcohol. There are 3 important items that I want you to include in your budget. Rather, I would recommend you include in your budget. One, I recommend that you set aside at least 10% of your income in for saving or investment. So I recommend that 10% of your income is on saving. I'd recommend that 10% is, if you're a Christian, there's something called giving a tithe, which is at 10% of your income. So you can also budget for that. And then there's something else, 10% for other miscellaneous expenses. On this one, you could decide to also include things like contributions, like us Tanzanians have all these contributions, say for weddings, for what, for a friend's birthday, for bridal shower and whatnot. So you can decide that to allocate maybe 10% to cater for this, because it's something that usually you spend money on. Sometimes you've not even thought, and then someone just tells you, okay, there's my wedding, and then you start wondering where I'm going to get the money. So you can decide to put this in your budget. Step number 3 in making a budget is going to be just deducting your income from your expenses. So remember, step number 1, we wrote down all our income sources. We had a gross amount of our income. Step number 2, we wrote down all our expenses, and so we're just going to deduct total income minus expenses. So there are 2 things here. You may decide that you may notice that maybe your income is less than your expenses, so you're going to have a negative balance. So this is where we go to step number 4, which is reevaluate again your expenses. Look at your expenses, especially on the column where you said these are the expenses that are not as necessary. Okay, maybe going out, drinking alcohol, maybe shopping. You don't have to buy the most expensive clothes, so you can decide, okay, let me just reduce the amount of money I spent here, so that ideally income minus expenses should be 0. So you can decide that, okay, let me see the expenses that are not as necessary, and then these are the ones you're going to reduce. So remember, when you're cutting down expenses, there are things that maybe you pay for but you don't necessarily use. Maybe you have a TV subscription that maybe you don't use. Maybe you have maybe an internet subscription that you don't use. So there are some of these things that sometimes we think are small, but over time they come to add up. So relook again at your expenses, what it is you see that you're spending on, but you don't necessarily use it, so you can decide to reduce. The final stage with budgeting is that you're going to have to be reviewing this every month. Usually when you make your purchases, when you spend money, you have to also record it as well. So you don't want to just have a budget that you don't look at, and it is 20th or it is 15th and you still don't have money. So ideally, maybe you have an Excel spreadsheet. Usually I have an Excel spreadsheet that I write my income, I write my expenses that I am anticipating for the month, and then every time I spend money, then I'm going to be reducing so that I don't get surprises. And when you do this, there are things you're going to be noticing. First, you're going to notice that, okay, maybe there's a certain portion of my expenses that was not, maybe it was too big or it was too small. Maybe you decided that you're put for food, maybe you're going to spend 100,000, and then you discover that, okay, I am going to be spending maybe 120. So with all this, as you're reviewing, then it means that your next month budget is going to be better, because now you're going to have a rough estimate of, okay, maybe last month I didn't plan for well, and this month I can plan for better. So the idea is not to have something perfect, but the idea is to have something that works. Another thing I've recently seen, like I watch a lot of YouTube videos on finance and whatnot. I've seen that there are people who budget for the whole year. So this is something I'm interested in actually. So I'm trying to do this year. Okay, so I have my normal budget, that is for every month. I have like my normal budget on my Excel spreadsheet, but then again I'm also thinking on the lines of, let us budget for the whole year. And I think the beauty of this is that it's going to also include my bigger expenses. You know, there are things you don't buy on a monthly basis, but there are things that you buy maybe once or twice a year, which are big. So if you can budget for this, then it means that you're not going to be surprised, or you're not going to be shocked when you have to actually spend this money. So that is something I'm trying out this year, and then I'll let you guys know whether it works. If you're interested in knowing how it works, or my experience so far with budgeting for a whole year, please let me know down in the comment section below. Another tip I would have for budget, remember my other tip for budgeting is on saving. I recommend you save at least 10% of all you earn, but okay, at least this is the minimum. Usually once you start saving this 10%, you might discover that maybe you can save a little bit more. Maybe this month you decided to just save 10%, but maybe you didn't spend all the money on your other expenses. So ideally the thought is, if you can increase this amount, it's going to be better for you in the in the long term. So I recommend you save at least 10%. Another tip I'd recommend when you're budgeting is look for expenses that you absolutely that these expenses that come rain or sunshine, you're going to incur. So you can decide, are these expenses that I can just spend once and for all? Okay, when I'm saying this is like personally, there's house shopping. Usually I like doing my house shopping like once a month. I don't want to be like stay in the office and then you get the message, okay, maybe there's no rice, there's no beans. So sometimes it just distracts me. So what I usually love doing is, once I've budgeted that, okay, this is how much I anticipate to spend on the house, maybe for food, I look at the things that I can actually purchase or buy for either the whole month or for a longer period of time, so that they can last me more, and actually it saves time. I just remember there was a video I made, I think last year, on how to save money on shopping. I think I'll put a link up here, and I think it's in Swahili, I think, so it will give you some of the things I think of when I'm spending money, especially for the house, and how I save money just by bulk shopping. So usually if there are things that you can bulk shop or you can buy once and for all, you can just do this. It's going to save you time, because you don't want every day of the week you're going to buy one thing. Okay, today there are no matchboxes to buy, tomorrow there's no sugar, tomorrow there's no rice. It's wastes a lot of time. So that is what I do. I like to do my bulk shopping. If you want to see the video, please watch it up here. That's all for today. That is what I look at when I'm budgeting. Those are my tips when I'm budgeting. So do you guys budget? What has been your experience so far? If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you've not yet subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.